Howdy stranger, welcome to my channel. My name is Scott and I'm a YouTube content creator. Please comment below, like, share, subscribe, and ring my bell. The hell does that bell do? Actually, I'm well aware of the bell, the nature of the bell. If you look below, next to the video title and the username and all that stuff, you'll find the subscribe button and the, I guess it's the subscriber count also, but in between those two things you'll find the bell icon. This is what's called the notification bell. This is a fairly new feature here on YouTube. What you do is if you're watching someone's video, you can ring the bell, and what happens is, or just click on the bell, as the case may be, and you will get a notification when that particular person you're watching uploads a new video. I guess it's an email alert or something like that. So I've seen a bunch of YouTubers pushing this lately. They really are strongly encouraging their viewers to ring the bell for notifications, and you'll find out every time when I've uploaded a new video. Now, aside from the obvious, the more people who are aware of their new videos being uploaded, the more people will watch them, and their numbers go up, their likes go up, their comments go up, and that's good for them if they're getting ad revenue from their YouTube videos. But I can't help but feel like there's another reason for it. I'm not really sure what it is. Obviously, the benefit to the viewer is obvious. You know, if you're someone who gets email alerts and there's someone in particular you really like, you'll know as soon as they have uploaded a new video. But aside from the obvious, is there some other reason why YouTube people who are posting videos want their subscribers to ring the bell? Does the number of bell rings that they get count in favor of their channel in some way or another? I'd imagine it does, but I don't really know how it works. Like I said, it's a new feature, but I find it a little bit curious that they would be pushing this, given that the subscription inboxes seem to be working just fine. At least they are for me. So anytime you want to know if your favorite people have uploaded new YouTube videos, you just check the subscriber inbox, you know. I don't know. Anyway, that aside, there's a couple other things that I wanted to talk about a little bit. A while back I made a video in which I mentioned that I was reading a book called William Shakespeare's The Phantom of Menace by a guy named Doescher, and I've been continuing reading that series. This is William Shakespeare's The Clone Army Attacketh, and this is William Shakespeare's The Tragedy of the Sith's Revenge. And these are basically the Star Wars movies that have been converted into Shakespearean plays, complete with Shakespearean dialogue. Practically every line of dialogue in each of the movies has been rewritten to resemble Shakespearean language. And I find these really entertaining and way more interesting than the dialogue in the prequels, of course. I just finished reading this, The Clone Army Attacketh, so I'm about to start The Tragedy of the Sith's Revenge. And I've noticed some really fun things in each one of these books right here. First of all, there's plenty of art, basically. Each is divided into 3 acts. There you've got Act 3, and every time this is a new set of scenes that come up. And then you have Act 4 right there. And of course there's artwork within the books themselves. Okay, so here in this particular part of the book, this is the scene where Obi-Wan goes to Yoda because he can't seem to find Kamino in the Jedi archives, and so we have this sort of illustration of what the stage version of this would look like. You've got the little kids basically playing with the lightsabers, the younglings, and Yoda's there, but the stars are basically hanging from strings, rather than them being holographic projections, which would be impossible in actual stage play. I would assume that this is how the author, Mr. Dorchester, intends the play to be performed. Since I've already returned the Phantom of Menace to the library, I don't have that cover to show you, but I can tell you that the cover art had Queen Amidala in her royal outfit and makeup. Here we have Jango Fett on the cover of the book The Clone Army Attacketh, and here is the tragedy of the Sith's revenge with General Grievous. Now, these two characters, of course, are unique to their respective stories. They don't appear in the other episodes, but Amidala, of course, does. Of course, the only film in which she's queen is the first one, so that sort of makes sense, I guess, to have her there instead of somebody like, well, maybe Darth Maul would be a good choice. Darth Maul actually appears on the cover for the first film, Episode 1, for the new cover art on the releases, the new video releases, anyway. They have a simple new cover art for the re-release that has just one character on each. And it's actually General Grievous for Revenge of the Sith for the film, but it's Darth Maul instead for the Phantom Menace. I didn't really think that the play could actually be performed, seeing as how there's so many creatures and changelings and just battles and force lightning and things like that really wouldn't be possible to do on a stage environment. When I read The Phantom Menace, or I should say The Phantom of Menace, I was getting onto the Podrace part, and I was just like, how are they going to do this with the Podrace? How would they do that in terms of a stage setting? I mean, it isn't just simply the dialogue's been changed. They have the stage directions for each of these characters and all the different things that are happening. And the Podrace basically turns into mostly just a commentary by the characters about what's happening, in addition to the dialogue that's taken directly from the movie and turned into Shakespearean. They've also added a lot of dialogue as well. So you have Jar Jar and Padme basically running off stage and then back again saying, I just went to the other side to see what happened with Anakin, and oh, he almost crashed and then he made it and now he's coming around again. And then the kid playing Anakin has his sort of like cardboard pod racer, I guess, and he would run from one side of the stage to the other to signify that he's making another pass through the starting gate or something like that. I thought, well, that was a little cheap looking, but of course, there's only so much you can do in a staged environment. I don't know if anyone would actually perform these things, because there's 6 of them. That would mean a lot of work, and who knows whether or not people who are really good at Shakespearean dialect and everything like that would even want to do these in the first place. Maybe they would. Who knows? There's a lot of Star Wars fans all over the world. No doubt there's a few well-trained Shakespearean actors that would want to do their own adaptation of Star Wars, or whether or not would that be possible? Would Lucasfilm allow that? I mean, they allow these books to exist, but I don't know about the actual productions of plays themselves. It's all really odd. But like I said, all the dialogue has been converted into Shakespearean language, and reading the sort of author's notes at the end of each book, he has stylized the dialogue for certain characters in certain ways. For the Clone Army Attacketh, the passage that begins with Anakin and Padme basically sitting out in the field with the waterfalls behind them as they're talking, their dialogue has become a literal poem. They will rhyme each other. It's this ongoing poem that runs from that point all the way through to the scene in which they're talking at night, and she's saying, we can't, have a secret relationship. It would ruin us, blah, blah, blah. And that's, one of the most terrible scenes in the movie. But it's so much better when it becomes like a big, long poem. It's really, really great to see it done this way. And they're not the only ones that have really specifically stylized dialogue. You have the creatures basically when the heroes are trapped in Geonosis in the arena and they're attacked by those 3 big creatures. They have lines too. They speak in pretty simple rhyming verse, but they speak as well. The flying droid that dispatches the poisonous worms, poisonous slugs into Padme's apartment to kill her, that has lines too. It's one of the funniest things in the whole book. So in this passage right here, Obi-Wan is hanging off of the droid, and the droid is flying along back towards its Sam Wessel, and spots Sam Wessel on the ledge of the building, awaiting it. And it speaks during this point. It speaks directly to the audience, or maybe to itself, more or less. "Oh, thither stands my master Joy, this hanger-on doth so annoy. Yet what is that within her hand? Her rifle? I don't under..." Because Zam shoots it out of the sky at that point. That's like, you know, a couple of lines right there from the probe, which is really odd. Characters have whole, what they call asides, which is they're basically sort of speaking to themselves or the audience, and none of the characters actually hear what they're saying. Palpatine has a number of these, which tip you off to his evil nature back in the Phantom Menace. If you were clever, you might, and didn't know anything about the history of the character, you might be fooled into thinking that Palpatine was a good guy until he finally admits that he's a Sith in Revenge of the Sith. But in these books, you know, it's very explicit that he's evil and that he's got all sorts of nefarious plans for everyone, because he speaks that out loud directly to the audience. Padme has soliloquies right to the audience where she's talking about how she's torn between her duty and her feelings for Anakin and everything like that. Jar Jar has a lot of soliloquies. Apparently he's just pretending to be kind of an idiot, and he has affected speech, basically. He's just trying to sound like a moron so people will underestimate him, when in fact he's, you know, a very smart character. So that's fun. Yeah, it's really fun to just, because I've seen each one of these movies, you know, probably, you know, 5 or 6 times a piece, so I know them very well, and going through this, you know, it's really great to tie in these particular moments with the dialogue itself. That's been Shakespeareanized, I guess you could say. There's a series of books called No Fear Shakespeare, which are really great if you want to read Shakespeare but are sort of intimidated by how the phrases and everything like that. They have basically the original text on one page, but then on the facing page they have what they call plain English translation. So if you ever don't understand a term or a phrase or whatever, you can look over to the opposite page and find the corresponding line and go, oh, well, that's what they meant. And after a while, you keep reading and you have to refer to that plain English translation less and less because it becomes easier to understand what's going on here. There's some things that I don't like about Shakespeare. For example, mayhap. The word mayhap is Shakespeare's version of the word maybe or perhaps. I just have a really hard time getting used to that word, but I'm really enjoying it. And probably my favorite part of both this book and the previous book, The Phantom of Menace, is a scene that isn't in any of the prequels at all. Basically, you have 2 Jedi on Coruscant who meet up and say hello to each other. These Jedi don't have any names. They're just called Jedi 1 and Jedi 2. And they have a very meta conversation about the world they live in and Star Wars' sort of impact on popular culture without really being explicit about it. In the first book, in The Phantom of Menace, they talk about how technology has a tendency every few thousand years or so to regress, and fashion to regress. And of course they're talking about the difference in the look between the prequels and the original trilogy, which was made, you know, 20 or so years beforehand. So they're talking about, you know, it's really odd, you know, we're due for, you know, another regression like this in about 20 or 30 years or so. Isn't that fascinating? I'm hungry, let's go to Dex's for a bite. That's what these Jedi talk about. And in the second book, in The Clone Army Attacketh, they talk about how, gee, wouldn't it be really odd? Do you think that anyone outside of our galaxy might learn about our culture here and about our exploits and the adventures that we have? You know, do you think that they might be curious about what life was like here in our galaxy? And then the other Jedi goes, they probably have all their own problems. Why would they worry about us? Especially since, you know, we'll be long gone if, you know, they come across our stories, you know, millennia from now. And he says, well, maybe it'll just be something that they learn about just for their amusement, you know, as a way to entertain themselves. And they're like, I don't know about that. I don't know why they would do that. Really funny meta conversation. So since there was one scene for each of those people in the previous books, I imagine that when I get underway here with the tragedy of the Sith's revenge, we'll have yet another scene with Jedi 1 and Jedi 2 talking about something really funny. Speaking of comedy. One bit that really didn't work for me was in the Battle of Geonosis, when all the Jedi arrived to help Anakin and Padme and Obi-Wan escape from all the bug guys. Mace Windu, of course, is there, and Mace Windu's dialogue is very specific in the way it references other films that Samuel Jackson has been in. At one point, Mace Windu uses the term Deep Blue Sea. At another point, he uses the words pulp and fiction in a particular line, and in another line he uses the words Die Hard and With a Vengeance. And I thought, okay, this is fun, but I think you're taking it just a little bit too far there. That's a little bit of a groaner right there. So yeah, really enjoying these books. They're by Ian Doescher, Doescher. That is the author of these books right there. And he's done the original trilogy as well, so once I finish this version of Revenge of the Sith, I'll move on to A New Hope and check those out as well. That'll be really great. I'm really excited to read The Empire Strikes Back in Shakespeare. That'll be really cool. So one other thing that I just wanted to talk about is some of the television that I've been watching lately. A few weeks ago, a couple of series that I was really excited by finished. The Good Place, which is a Kristen Bell comedy, where she is died and is now in the afterlife, and she's dealing with the fact that she doesn't belong in heaven because she was such a terrible person when she was alive. That was a really terrific show. Just ended a few weeks ago. Also, the basic cable show called Shooter, which is adapted from the Mark Wahlberg thriller that came out about 9 years ago. It's like The Fugitive, except that instead of being a doctor who's on the run trying to escape the authorities for a crime that he didn't commit, it's a Marine sniper who is very, very good at what he does. The very last episode of the season had the main villain do something really, really, really dumb, which kind of put a damper on the end of the show. But up until that point, it was really exciting. And some of the goriest stuff. I mean, I don't watch The Walking Dead, so I don't see zombies get their heads hacked in and everything like that. But there's a scene in Shooter in which a guy fires a rifle with a bad bullet in it, and it basically explodes in his face and rips like half of his head away. Oh my goodness! I never thought that I'd see such incredible gore on a television show that wasn't on premium cable. I mean, I guess it just airs late at night or whatever. I get really sort of weirded out by the fact that there's such graphic violence in regular TV shows now. I mean, you look at something like 24. I had finished recently the Brain Dead series. Brain Dead with Mary Elizabeth Winstead got canceled last fall, but it's on DVD, and I managed to catch up with it and finish the whole season, which was really great. Another show in which they have something really ridiculous happen in the very last episode, probably because when they got canceled, they needed to figure out a way to wrap up all the storylines in a way in that one episode that they were shooting. So maybe it was kind of a rush job, but it was a really, really fun show otherwise. So the shows that I'm starting with now, I mean, I'm watching the usual stuff. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I'm still watching that, of course, really enjoy it. But the shows that just started recently are Imposters, which is on Bravo, and Legion, which is an X-Men series that's on the FX network. I haven't watched the first episode of Legion yet, but that started like last week on Wednesday, I think, and the new one's going to be on tomorrow. And Imposters is on Tuesday nights. So yeah, that's exciting. Both of these look really good. When Designated Survivor starts again in March, I'm going to be resume watching that. That's a really exciting show. Aside from that, I took notes on a whole bunch of shows that I wanted to keep up with, but there's just too many of them, and I don't want to take the time. Don't want to be sitting in front of the TV every single minute of the day when I'm not working. So, which is something I'd have to do in order to get caught up on all this stuff. But yeah, that's what's been going on with me. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and please comment, like, share, subscribe, ring my bell. I'm just kidding. You don't have to do any of that stuff, really. But thank you, because I don't make money off these, so really it doesn't matter. Thanks very much for watching. Anyway, appreciate your interest. I'll see you again real soon. Oh, and of course, every Friday, new episode of my Decades of Action Challenge series. But then you knew that, didn't you?